Okay. Well, let's get into it. I'm not gonna hold you all day. I am so excited for this. I love having women on here, even though it's not often. I love doing this. So shout out to the girls and shout out to you.
Thank you for having
um.
me. Thank you for including me. Thank you for creating space and holding space in the digital space. And keep hustling and keep grinding. I'm proud of you.
Oh, hey, right back at you. So let's get into it. Can you tell the people, for those who don't know, who you are?
Yeah, I like to say that I'm just human. I'm just human on Instagram, but I'm an author, a speaker, a serial entrepreneur, and the quintessential big sis. So I like to create space for all of you. And that means that I want you to come as you are with everything that you offer, from your light sides to your dark sides. I started Copper House Detroit, which is Detroit's first bud and breakfast. We are a short-term rental and intimate gathering accommodation. And we're Detroit's first, and we're focused on the cannabis community. And I just published my first book, Sis Your Copper, which is a holistic wellness framework, which takes some of the shit shows from my life or where I experienced darkness, reframes them, gives you tools and resources and reflection prompts so that you can kind of see your own self, even if you're in your darkness.
Okay, period. I love that. So, I just want to get to know you a little better, and then we're gonna dive into your serial entrepreneurism, if that's a word. I think I just made up something.
No, that's
But
what I identify as. So perfect.
I like it. Hey, that's what we do. We create. So, where are you from
1000%.
originally?
I'm Detroit bred, born and raised. So I was born in Hutzel Hospital. I'm from the southwest side of Detroit, Mexican town. I went to Western International High School, and then went to the University of Michigan on a full ride scholarship from Detroit Regional Chamber. So like I'm Detroit bred through and through.
Okay, period. I actually went to high school in Southwest Detroit too. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Voyager Consortium. It's
Is
right
a
on
charter
Michigan and
school?
Livernore's Avenue, so not too far from Western. Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
Is it a charter school?
It is.
Dope, dope.
Yeah. So okay, all right, period. So I know you're an avid cannabis advocate. So did you grow up around that, or was it like something that was like prominent in your life growing up?
It's interesting that you say that because the first joint that I ever purchased, I mean, weed is around us, right? Like we've always seen weed. But I was the nerd. I told you I went to the University of Michigan on a full ride scholarship. I had a 4.3 in high school. I was the president of 7 clubs. I just was very focused on my academic side. And when you grow up in the hood, you're either focused or you're not focused, right? You know the difference. And so the first time I ever purchased a joint, I was 16. I was a sophomore in high school, and I purchased it from the only girl who was bisexual and was out in the class. And it was like, I think my attempt to try and connect with her, because I had not yet accepted that I was also queer. Um, but I bought it and I carried it around in my wallet for months, like I would say like 6 months, and then finally gave it away to my friend's boyfriend. I was too scared to try weed. I was a dare kid, right? So I grew up thinking that weed
What?
was the gateway drug. It was going to send me to hell. It was going to make me not go to college. And then my father was a crack addict, right? So thinking that weed was the gateway drug, I didn't want to end up like him. So growing up, I never consumed. I had all of the stigma. I didn't know the benefits. I didn't really know that this was also rooted in a lot of historical anti-Black rhetoric and anti-Black propaganda. All I knew was that if I tried it, maybe I wouldn't end up on the path that I was going towards. I didn't actually start smoking weed until I went to the University of Michigan, and all these white people was smoking weed. Like in the University of Michigan, there's all these like, the leaders and best. We were all-star students, all this stuff, and everybody around me was smoking weed. It's the home of the hash bash. And I was like, okay, so it can't be too bad if these motherfuckers is doing it. And so I had weed for the first time when I was in college.
Okay, do you remember what that was like? Was it a bad experience at all?
My first edible experience, absolutely. I never touched an edible after that. Like I ate too much. We didn't know the ratio. But the first time I smoked, I had bought a bowl when I was in Mexico, and it was a dragon, and I smoked out of the bowl, and I ended up so fried. I was like laying on the kitchen floor, and my roommate's boyfriend at the time was cooking, and I was like, give me all the cookies. I just got the munchies, but I was just chill. I was relaxed, and I guess that
Uh-huh.
I smoked that way up until I was probably in my middle 20s, when I started to become more conscious around how I was using cannabis to exercise. Honestly, I started using cannabis intentionally when I started using it before I would go hiking, because it allowed me to be more present in nature. It allowed me to be more grounded in my body. It allowed me to be less anxious around people that might see me struggling up these mountains, because I was in like Virginia hiking and stuff like that. So it wasn't until later in life that I actually started being conscious about why I was using cannabis and how it made me feel.
So I want to touch on, you said it was based in like a lot of anti-black rhetoric. Could you explain and elaborate like what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So, all the stuff that we learn, like weed makes you lazy. Um, if you smoke, you're gonna end up doing harmful thing, the reefer madness. So if you look into the um, origins of cannabis prohibition and the war on drugs, the real root of it, Harry Aslinger at the time, he was um, it's not it wasn't the DEA back then, but he was literally like the first director of the DEA, right? And we had just came out of prohibition of alcohol, so now he was looking for a job, essentially. Like, what can I do
Mhm.
to control some sort of substance, because now alcohol is legal. And then at the time, jazz musicians were smoking a lot of weed. Mexican immigrants were smoking a lot of weed. So it was easy to demonize this plant because it was associated with the people who we already dehumanized, right? Like, oh, this is that black drug. This is that Mexican drug. We could be xenophobic about it. All right, weed. Weed is it. Let's make weed the thing that we want to. And so he literally, if you look into some of the documents in his internal meetings, the reason why people went to stop cannabis. Because if you look early in the day, like we used to have a cannabis manufacturing company in the 1800s in Detroit, and it was making medicine, right? It was cannabis sativa. They made little tinctures that they would use. But when it
What?
started getting associated with Black and brown communities, that's when they started saying, oh, this makes you lazy. There's literally quotes of him saying, reefer makes Black men think they're as good as white men. Or not, he called them, he didn't say Black men, he used derogatory term, but like look into Harry Aslinger in the beginning. And so all that propaganda, all that messaging that they use to demonize the plant is literally rooted in our country's history of racism. It's not even founded on scientific fact. Because if we actually research, our body has an endocannabinoid system. Our body has a system that the chemical compounds within the plant latch to our receptors to help regulate our body so that we can reach homeostasis. It's actually good for us. But they've used racism to condemn it and criminalize it so that they can give them another job, give the war on drugs a purpose and a reason.
Oh wow. Well, you just definitely taught me something. So I want to ask, so knowing that you know all that, like, I saw that you used to work. I don't know if you still do, but you worked with the Great Lakes Expungement. I don't remember the whole name, but
Yeah.
I saw that you did that. So was your research in that what made you like kind of like, oh, sorry, somebody was pulling in the drive-through. Was your research with and knowing all that what kind of led you to do that, or was it the other way around? Were you like working there and then you started to notice like, oh, this isn't like, this is actually like, like this is pretty bad how they're doing these communities out here.
Yeah, so I would say that my passion is always justice and equity. I started my career in teaching and educational equity. I know that I studied sociology at the University of Michigan, so I know how policy and uh, behavior and capitalism right, has indoctrinated us and has made us have perceptions and created systems and structures which have harmed certain people and benefited other people, right? So I'm really passionate to undo that. Like that is what drives me, whether it be in education, whether it be in business, whether it be in home ownership, whether it be in cannabis. That's like literally what keeps me up at night and what keeps me fueled. So but it also, when you do this passion and justice work, is what keeps you broke. So I'm like really critical of how specifically Black women are leveraged a lot in the nonprofit and philanthropic and justice focused work. And it kind of keeps us in this system of inequity because you can only make so much money in the nonprofit world, let's be honest. And so I was an educator, I was a teacher. Literally, the cap of what I could make as a teacher was like $52,000 a year. I had a master's degree, I had all this student debt, and I just was like, I need to figure out a way to make more money because I didn't do all this to be broke, right? And so I went and got my MBA, and I was like, I'm going to study business. I'm going to figure out how to get into corporate America. I'm going to increase my salary. I'm going to get out of education. I'm going to figure this out. So when I was in my MBA program, we had to do a capstone project. And the capstone project that I selected was on the cannabis industry. Why I was interested in the cannabis industry is because it was an intersection of what I was looking for. One, I knew the rhetoric, I knew the history, I knew the criminalization, I knew the ties to justice within the industry. And also, it's capitalism and it's a business, and there's opportunity. It's slated to be a $30 billion business by 2030, right? So like these are things that are like, damn, okay, I can make money here as well. And my sorority sister she launched Josephine and Billy's out in LA, and she launched Apothecary. So she was doing a lot of marketing around cannabis and doing some of that destigmatizing education. And so I did my research on the cannabis industry. And so when I came home to Detroit after I graduated with my MBA, I wanted to get right into the cannabis industry, but at that point, it was so not developed that the level that I needed to be hired in, like I wasn't able just to take a $15 an hour bud tender job. I couldn't do that at that point I just graduated with MPA. I had so much debt. I needed to make a certain amount of money.
Right.
So I started volunteering, right? Like, so I started doing stuff. I started hosting educational events out of my house, which is how we founded Copper House. I started volunteering with expungement, with national expungement committees. I started doing social media content development. And I was working in the nonprofit sector, and I did some consulting for nonprofit in order to bring in revenue. But I would say that expungement is the easiest way to have an impact on changing lives in this industry. A criminal record, let's say you've been charged with a cannabis related offense and you go to jail, you serve your time, whatever that means, you come out, now you have this criminal record and you can't get a job, you can't get an apartment, you can't buy a car, you can't chaperone your kids' field trip, you can't adopt children. Like literally having a criminal record puts 48,000 additional barriers on your life to be successful. And so that kind of has just inspired me to be like, if we can expunge your record, because guess what? The law says that we can in Michigan, I'm removing 48,000 barriers so that you can achieve more in your life, right? And that's like the most direct way to create justice and impact, I feel like. So that's why I'm on the board for Great Lakes Expungement Network, and that's what we offer. We offer completely free expungement to folks who have cannabis convictions. I'm also on the board of the Redemption Foundation, and the Redemption Foundation really prioritizes the whole criminalization process, right? So we have the expungement program. So Great Lakes Expungement is a part of that, but we also have education and how are you getting your GED? So we have a GED program. We also have a community engagement grant. So like when you come back and you're doing things in your community, you can get some funding to do those things for your community. And then we have a commissary program. So while you're incarcerated, we put money on your books so that you can, live while you're there. So we try to wrap around the whole experience of someone who's been criminalized by cannabis.
Oh my gosh, I really
Uh-oh,
like
did I lose
that.
you?
Oh, can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Did I lose you?
Oh,
Did...
can you hear me?
I can
I
hear you
heard that
now.
all. Okay,
Okay,
good.
okay.
I heard that all. That is so amazing. Like that is really inspiring, first of all. Just because, well, first I'll say, I'm kind of like almost going through the same thing. Like my major is education, and I just don't want to do that anymore. I just feel like it's no money there, and of course it feels fulfilling to like, be hands on with the future and that kind of stuff, but it's like just not, it's not it for me. And I feel like a lot of people, like you said, put black women in this corner, like where they feel like they have to be like giving themselves like 100% and not getting what they deserve in return, like even if it's like, money or like time or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I
Mm-hmm.
just love that. I really love that. So and also I love that that you're working with these different nonprofits and still like able to like, do your business stuff. I love that. I love that. So I want to ask, have you seen any like, or have you heard of any like specific cases that really stuck out where someone was charged for a weed crime and it's just like really petty?
Yeah, I think all of them are petty. Unless you're like selling to a minor, I suppose. But most of it, black men in particular, in some areas are 10 times more likely to be charged with cannabis possession and cannabis related offenses than white men. And why? Because of racial profiling, right? We're more likely to be stopped. We're more likely to be frisked. We're more likely to be searched. Like all of those things happen. The other thing that's like really petty to me is that once you're out, and you have a record, they could send you back for literally anything. So, like, if you have weed on you and you're not supposed to smoke because now you're out of jail, you're on probation, like whatever, you have weed on you, you're pulled over because you have a dead tail light in your car, right? Um, and you're black and you're driving in an area, and so they pull you over because you don't have a tail light and and you and you're black because you're more likely to be profiled. Now, all of a sudden, because you have weed on you, you're going back to jail. So it's like the recidivism that drives me crazy is like, how can we continue to protect ourselves or do more when we get out of jail? We can't do shit. We really can't. Like, you can't get a job. So what you want me to do? Sell drugs? Because that's literally all that's open to me. And then I can't get an apartment. So how you want me to live? How you want me, like I can't buy a car. I can't even go to college. Literally. They like our federal aid does not provide funding to people who have a conviction. And so these are all of the shit that I have to go through. And it's so easy to just get wrapped back up. It's hard to do good when you're on the right path because of all of these barriers. One of the most inspiring stories that I have right now on record is actually the founder of the Redemption Foundation and Redemption Cannabis. So Redemption Foundation is a part of Redemption Cannabis. And even my own, I currently work for Common Citizen. I'm the Director of External Affairs and Social Equity. We're the largest vertically integrated cannabis manufacturer in the state. And we're social equity qualified. So that means that someone in our so one of my founders has a cannabis conviction and now gets supportive resources from the state in order for them to be successful in the cannabis industry. And I think that those are the things that inspire me about this industry is that we literally have a system set up to support those folks who have been criminalized to make it a little easier. I'm not going to say very much easier because it's not very much easier, but there are things that the state does to make it a little easier for you to get a license and for you to start a business in this industry. So Redemption Cannabis is one of those social equity qualified businesses, and Ryan Basor was criminalized. Common Citizen is another social equity qualified business, and our founder Shadi Zaki is the reason why. And so those things inspire me that like you can build a successful business even if you do have all of those barriers of your criminal conviction within the cannabis industry.
Oh, okay. Redemption Cannabis. I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Yes.
So, have you got any like backlash for your advocacy and your work that you're doing in your personal or professional life?
Sis, that I write about that in my book. So my book is 5 different chapters, and each chapter starts with a shit show. And the 5 chapters are kind of the elements that I feel we need. Specifically, it's written for women of color who are marginalized or might have mental illness, because I also have a clinical depression diagnosis. But when I first started doing advocacy in cannabis, I told you I opened my house, right? I started doing education sessions in my house. And my first big event was a dinner with Black leaders in cannabis to have a conversation around equity in the industry and racial equity specifically. And we ended up landing that dinner on the front page of the Free Press. So I'm like, dang, this is divinely guided, like our first big event, like we're about to be on the Free Press. But at the same time, I was a nonprofit leader, right? Like I was a former teacher. I was the nerdy girl who had not done really anything too bad aside from being gay. Publicly, and all of a sudden now I'm gonna be the face. I'm gonna have my face associated with weed in a newspaper, right? So I had to, what I like to say, I had to have a coming out situation. So I came out, I wrote like, this is why I'm interested in doing advocacy in this industry. This is what motivates me. It relates to all of the equity work I've been doing with my kids, right? Like I'm trying to create pathways for generational wealth. I did all of that. I posted that on a Tuesday. My dinner was on a Saturday. Sis was fired by Friday. So I lost my job, my executive level position, because of my advocacy within cannabis. And that's just one way that this plant is further ostracized and stigmatized. Like, why would I want to do work in this industry when the risk is so high? When I can go to jail, when I can lose my job, when my family, I have friends who literally their family members don't fuck with them because of what they do. My church condemns cannabis every fucking Sunday. My pastor is talking about how weed is the devil, right? Like all these things are continuing to make it harder to be successful in this industry as people of color. And so those are the things that I try to talk about and bring life to, as people continue to ostracize and stigmatize this. One, yes, you do have to be 21 to consume recreational marijuana unless you have a medical documentation to consume as a minor, right? Yes, those are real. That's the law. That's fine. But there is job opportunity in this industry. And for us to continue to stigmatize it, we're just keeping our people out of $1 billion industry. Last year, we hit $3 billion in Michigan. We're the second largest industry in the country in Michigan. So we just got to continue to educate. We need educators in this industry to destigmatize. We need people who have authority and credibility, and people who are trying to inspire the next generation, because we're going to opt ourselves out if we don't.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe they fired you that quick. That is so fucked up. I'm so
Girl, I
sorry.
posted on a Tuesday, was jobless by Friday, but my
crazy.
event made the front page of the Free Press on Saturday.
Period. Look at God.
Right.
So on a lighter note, I want to ask you more about the Copper House Detroit. First of all, let me say that house is beautiful, and I can't wait to see it in person for real. I love what you got going on over there. What you guys have going on over there, and I just want to know, where did the idea come from, and where did you get the name?
Oh my gosh, those are great questions. And you should come through. We have a Halloween. My friend, my Copper Creative, Tierra, is hosting a Halloween get together for women. So you should come through October 28th. But so literally I lost my job. So I needed to make money. I went from making almost six figures to making $300 a week. And I needed to figure out how to make some money quickly. So I was like, okay, the one thing I have that's up for sale, I got a house, like I own my house. What can I do with this? We literally put an air mattress up and listed it on Bud and Breakfast. We got booked our first booking was January 11th, 2019, 111. And from there, we just kept learning more and more about what people were looking for when they come and they travel. Because people are traveling to Michigan to get this free weed. I mean, to get this legal weed.
Yeah,
and so
not
we just,
free.
right, it ain't free, but it is accessible. And so they were coming. And so we just kept learning more and more and more. I would say the true I always knew that I wanted to have some sort of Airbnb. One, millionaires have seven. If you're trying to become a millionaire, you need 7 streams of income. And many of those need to be passive. And real estate is something that I'm super interested in. So I was interested in, how can I do real estate development in a way that feels right for me, right? I don't have a lot of money to buy a whole bunch of property, but I have this one. So how can I develop this one? Two, when my wife and I got engaged, we went to Europe. And so we got engaged in Paris. And while we were and then we went to Amsterdam to like celebrate our engagement. And then we wrapped up our trip in London. And we had 3 experiences at 3 different Airbnb style hosting, right? The one in Paris was in a neighborhood that was very queer friendly. So there was nightlife and things like that the culture felt inclusive of us. So I was like, okay, having an inclusive environment makes your experience way better, right? If you feel like you could be yourself in that space, that's going to make your experience better. And then we went to Amsterdam and we stayed on a houseboat. And Amsterdam weed is legal. And the houseboat had ashtrays, rolling papers, little baggies of weed everywhere. Like it was a part of the experience. Weed was a
What?
part of the experience. And so in Amsterdam, we learned, okay, weed is a part of the experience, right? So in Paris, we learned being who you are, all your parts of yourself being included. That needs to be a part of the experience. Amsterdam, we learned weed needs to be a part of the experience and all of the things that go with that. And then in London, we stayed at a hostel. And so there was kind of like this concierge service where you could go and they would refer you to the different restaurants, different experiences. You could talk to somebody who lived in the neighborhood and they would tell you all the dope stuff to do. And I was like, okay, so it also needs to have a neighborhood ambassador. And so we took all of those elements that we learned from our experience and kind of captured them here. Copper House is a woman-owned, queer woman-owned space. So if you're queer and you're looking for a space where you could bring your boo and not be embarrassed or ashamed or anything like that, come on to Copper House. If you're and we're close to Ferndale, which is a gayborhood, like there's gay clubs and stuff over here that you can go to. If you smoke weed, we got bongs, we got copper bongs, we got papers sponsored by the dispensaries. We have a partnership with Live where you can get weed delivered directly to you. And so you don't have to hide that. That's incorporated here. We're weed smokers too. And then if you're looking for a neighborhood, we're situated in Detroit in a neighborhood that is not, we're not downtown. So we're not a place where people are coming to visit often. But what we do have is like Livernois. We're right near the Avenue of Fashion.
Oh.
And Livernois has the highest concentration of Black-owned businesses in the city. So we're attracting tourists to a neighborhood that deserves that commerce, that we're building an economic ecosystem, right? And we can refer you. Go to Petty Cash up here. Go to Baker's on here. Baker's is the oldest jazz club in the Midwest. Petty Cash is one of the most beautiful restaurants in the city, and it's right here, Go on the Greenway, go walk, do all these things. We can make these referrals because we're neighborhood ambassadors. I literally was on my neighborhood association, the board of directors. So I know what's happening in my community and can share that with other people who are coming to visit. And that kind of has inspired the experience that you get at Copper House.
Oh wow, I love the inclusiveness, honestly. Like I can't tell you how many times I've stayed at an Airbnb and we had to like go outside to like smoke. Or we had to walk like down the street and that is like not first of
Or
all,
in
it's
your
not so much
car.
safe. Yeah, or in the car, like that's not really safe, especially if you're not familiar with the area. It's not comfortable, it's not cozy, so I love the inclusiveness, especially like it's woman owned, queer owned. I love it, I love it, I love it. So can you tell me how you how the partnership with Liv came? I like that too. That is like so awesome.
Absolutely. So Liv has been, well, first of all, Liv is my employer. So I work there. But also they have always poured in. Like whenever we ask, in March, we do something called Rush Week where we do a week of events. It's crazy. And it's just to get people to come and see the space, to see what's possible. And they sponsor those events. But as we start thinking about like, what do we need? First of all, I'm not selling weed. That's not my lane. I stay in my lane. I'm not selling you weed. I don't do that, but I can get you some weed. I can figure out how to get you some weed. And so that was a need that we had, like, oh, we need a way for folks to be able to access their weed. And so Liv already delivers and I work for them. And so at first we started with a discount code to see like, okay, they'll get 20% off when they order from there. And now we're just tracking, they're helping me actually as a business to track and see the frequency of people using it. Because the other thing that we get to do with these partnerships is start to build additional partnerships with other brands and they become sponsors, right? So we have partnerships evolving with other brands to sponsor brand placement in the in the Copper House. So when you're a guest and you could come and you could see, oh, Calixium is a Black-owned, women-owned cannabis line, and you could order it from these dispensaries, right? Or just making sure that we're educating the consumer about how they can get the best quality bud. And then in order for us to do that, these companies pay us to do that. So that's another revenue stream. Remember I said 7 revenue streams.
Yeah, I took note of that. Totally. I'm trying to get like you one day. So I want to ask you, because I know you guys host events too, and do the bud and breakfast. What are some of your favorite events that you hosted so far?
I love infused dinners because I love to eat. But I love when we do infused dinners, and that was actually what we started with Lucky Pistol. She's one of the best cannabis infusion chefs in the world. I'll put her on the map. And I would taste so many unique foods when she would cook. So I love infused dinners. I also think it's a great way to be introduced to cannabis, especially if you never smoke, because a lot of people don't want to smoke, and a lot of people, COVID just passed, your lungs, you don't want to affect your lung capacity, all that stuff. So edibles are a nice way, and people are scared of them. So what Enid does is she microdoses them so you can eat throughout the whole meal and you won't be super high the whole time. And then my other thing is I like anything girly. I love rose gold and pink. I'm girly. And so Tierra has been curating sister circles out of our space. And so she's an aesthetician. So she does yoni steaming, facials, ear candling, yoga, breath work, anything that's like centered on the healing for women. I love to feel that energy in the space. I also, Arata, who is one of our creatives, she used to do her elevated melanated tea parties here, which is like a costume. People would dress up, Black folks love to dress. And so I love to see anything that is where people get to be their best selves and dress forward. And then we've also done, any harm reduction programming. We've done painting. So we've done puff painting. We've literally done probably every type of event you could think of. And even, I know we met at the Roots Festival on the stage, and every woman on the stage, the Queens of Cannabis panel, every woman on that stage, whether it be you were inspired by our mission of working with queer folks, right? Like they named that on stage, or Chef Nikki contacted, when she was doing her tea party, she contacted us to see how we had curated our tea parties. Sahir had hosted events for her branding out of Copper House. Like, we have literally touched every part of the industry in our home. And when I talk about my trajectory in cannabis, because I'm executive in cannabis now, I work for the largest company in the state, and report to the CEO. And I got all of the opportunities that I got by opening my home. I met the people I was supposed to meet in the living room of my house. I also really love content production. So I love when people come here and take pictures, we had rappers shoot videos here. I love all that stuff. Anything that documents the experience, I love that.
Oh, that's so nice.
We've had podcasters in here
I didn't
too.
know y'all was doing all that over there. Nah. I totally like I said, I have got to come down there and do that. I love that though. So I want to ask, I've heard plenty of like Airbnb horror stories. Have you guys ever had like a bad guest, or like just like a bad experience at all?
Yes, I mean, that comes with the business. And one of the, this is when I talk about Copper House, I think that folks have a perception that this is not what it is. This is our home. We live here. We renovated our basement to create a private studio in the space. And we're in a regular neighborhood in Detroit. We're not a hotel. When you book with us, you're not booking with a hotel. And so when we first started, we had to learn how to make the space feel the way that you kind of, we had to de-us it, like you don't need pictures of you on the walls, like you might need art from the community. You don't need to have your junk laying around. You got to make it so that other people can use the space and feel like they're at home too, right? There's a different, if you were hosting your mama at your house, at your apartment, you go clean it at a different level than what you living in every day. Well, I have
Right.
visitors every day, so the cleanliness level got to reflect that. Um, and so we had to learn how to navigate and make this not just our home, but this is a space that's welcoming and inclusive to guests. And then the other thing, there's a lot of horror stories about people stealing stuff and, breaking stuff. And yes, people do take our shit. And I'd be like, don't take my stuff, because most of the stuff we get sponsored for, especially if it's some branded stuff, they be like, this must be, promo stuff that I could take. I'm like, damn,
Right,
I don't
souvenir.
have, yeah, I ain't got no ashtrays anymore because y'all done took our ashtrays or our rolling trays. But the benefit is the industry does kind of like keep, giving us stuff to make sure that we're taken care of. But I don't think that I've had many like horror stories, because we live here, and because when you get the like the welcome package, we literally name all the shit. It's an old house. It's almost 100 years old. So our floor is creak. It's an
Mm.
old vintage house. If you are a light sleeper, we may not be the space for you. Um, unless you stoned, and that's why you could get stoned, right?
Exactly.
We Right. And so those are things that we just try to be transparent with our guests about. And then we learn from any experience that they share with us. If there's something that was missing or something that we can improve on, we take that constructive feedback, and try to incorporate it.
Where do you see like the future of the Copper House in like the next, I'd say like
Girl,
5 years?
I want a boutique hotel.
Ooh.
Something like, if you've ever been to, so we got a partnership with the Detroit Foundation Hotel, and I've kind of learned how their lifestyle and hospitality works. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a larger space that has like a ballroom so that people can host larger events. I like to say that we work with emerging brands a lot of times because we're an intimate space, right? So like, you really, in the summertime, you could probably get 75 people if you get the whole house. That's like, the whole house would be like 75 people to 100 people. But in the basement, you're looking at like 25 people. Sometimes people need larger events. I would like to be a venue where they can have larger events. And I would also like to do weddings. So I've had one wedding at the Copper House. My life goal is to be a wedding planner. And so I would love to have a boutique hotel that we specialize in cannabis friendly weddings. And we are currently in the process of looking at different real estate to make that happen. I also would like a consumption lounge. That is an experience that I think is going to come to the market. Like, not everybody wants to go to a bar. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I'd rather go with my friends to a restaurant where I can consume cannabis at, And so really starting to look at what the industry needs and what consumers need. And I would like to have either the boutique hotel or consumption lounge in the next 5 years. And then
Oh,
the
the
other thing that I really want to do is, when I talk about generational wealth, one of the reasons why our people, specifically Black people, have less generational wealth is because we have been barred from buying homes that increase in value because of redlining, right? Like, historically, our areas have not been invested in terms of real estate. And anytime we are building wealth, they like destroy it through policy or break up our neighborhoods or something like that. And so what I would love to create, and I've been working with my Copper Creative program to start to like help incubate, is okay, you're in Lansing. How can we franchise the Copper House model to what my community that we wanted to serve is LGBT, right? But what you have in Lansing might be a whole different community. How can we help you buy a house? How can we help you brand it? How can we expand the Copper House portfolio so now you're a homeowner and a business owner, and you can start to generate your own generational wealth for your people, right? And so that's really what my ultimate goal is, to be the model so that other folks can do it and to partner with them to make it happen.
Okay, nice, nice. The consumption lounge is going to be a money maker. Let me tell you that now. That's like something I feel like me and my friends always talk about. Like, if they just had a bar for smokers and there's no drinking, that would be so amazing. And
Right?
I think that is what society is
I
missing. And
receive it.
I think that will make the crime rate go down. And also, when I get married, I'm definitely gonna call you so you can plan it. Totally in the
I'm
next
there. I
10 to
got you.
15 years.
I got you. I got you.
Yes. Oh, so I want to talk about your book a little bit. First of all, congratulations, Miss
Thank
Author.
you.
Yeah. I love that. Period. Okay, so well, I want to ask first of all, was this something that you were always sitting on? Because I heard like a lot of authors say like they've had before they publish their first book, they always say like it's a thought that they've had for a long time, and it just one day like something changed. Was that the same case with you, or was it like just kind of more fast?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I just published Sister Copper and Alchemy to Shine. I think that my brand message, or what I hope people take from one, when you read this book, I hope it feels like a hug. I hope you feel seen and validated and affirmed. But the what I like to say is that I'm holding space for all of you, specifically your pain. I think that what I've heard a lot from my sis, like all my sisters, right, is that I don't know why this has happened to me, or why this is my journey. I feel like it's so much more difficult for me, or this is so much harder. I feel like all these things in my life are much harder than everybody else's. I want to call bullshit on that, right? Like we all have our own trauma stories. Nobody has, maybe you grew up with more money than me, and so stuff might come to you easier and faster, but perhaps your dad wasn't, like perhaps you didn't have, who knows what your trauma story is. I don't need to be comparing my trauma stories to your trauma stories to say who has it harder. We all have it hard, and this world sucks. Point blank, period. The other thing is we all have been given innate gifts and abilities because of our own trajectory and our own story. And so I knew growing up, like I didn't have a father, right? My dad was addicted to crack. That was a huge wound for me. I grew up with a mom who had her own shit, right? And she was neglectful in her own way. I'm biracial, so I'm mixed. So my mom is white, my dad is black. And I grew up questioning my racial identity and how I fit in this world. I'm queer, but I'm also really, really, really spiritual. And so my church always told me that I'm not welcome there, right? Like, or that I'm going to hell. And so I had all this trauma just storing up inside of me. And I was like, there's no purpose for this. And I developed chronic depression because of the way my brain processed that trauma, right? And my trauma response for the hardships that I experienced was always suicide. So my first suicide attempt was when I was 16. And then 3 years ago, we got awarded a grant from Cannabis for Black Lives. They did a friend raise campaign for us to renovate our basement. So this was 2021. And so all this shit is happening good for me, right? Like, oh, your business is popping. You got the money to make this happen for you. Like you're getting media coverage. You're doing all the things that you said you would do for yourself. And still my brain is telling me I don't want to exist in this world. And so I'm having a moment of like suicide. And in that moment, instead of attempting suicide, I booked a flight. I quit my job and I booked a flight to Brazil, and I left and went to Brazil. I had always known that I was going to write about my journey because, and I've done it since I was a kid. I was on live journal writing. Then when social media came around, I'm the one who's always, people be like, your content's too vulnerable. You talking too real. Like people can't handle me because I'm too real. But we're not real enough. We don't sit with the shit that is hard. We don't process through what God is trying to teach us through the hard, difficult moments. And so what I'm trying to do is be a mirror and be a reflection to sit with yourself. SIS stands for literally sit in shit. Sit in it. And then turn it into bold, why I'm big sis, bold, intuitive goals. You can transform your pain. You can transform the difficult moments into something that's meaningful for yourself. And I did it with my book. And so when I quit my job, I went to Brazil. That's when I mapped out the whole book. And I was like, this is the framework. This is a healing framework. This is what I've done to transform myself. This is how I hold myself accountable. It's my rituals, my Bible, and it's my story. And I want to help other people be able to do the same for themselves. And so I mapped out the whole thing. And then when I came back from Brazil, I applied it. I applied it for a year. There are 5 elements. It starts with your spirituality, and then it goes into your mental and emotional health. It goes into your body and your physical health. It goes into your relationship and your community health. And it goes finally into your professional and capital, like your social capital and all those things, right? So I talked through, and last year I applied every element. I made sure I was addressing element. In my spiritual health, I prayed and did rituals for 3 hours every morning to make sure I was strengthening in my key purpose with God and what I'm called to do here. With my mental and emotional health, I microdosed with shrooms. I went to therapy. I did all of the work to make sure that I'm managing my depression. With my body, I started working out. I started eating right. I started fasting and detoxing and really paying attention to what my body was telling me. I lost 136 pounds. With my community, I came out as poly, which is I've been married for 10 years, and all of a sudden I want to date other people, and I'm still married and happily married. I'm happily married. I love my wife, but I am not ethically non-monogamous. And my community didn't know how to hold space for that. They was like, what the fuck you doing, sis? And so being authentic to myself, being authentic to myself and figuring out how to navigate that. And then I lost my job and started working in cannabis and tripled my income and trying to figure out how to be an entrepreneur and do all that. So I write about this journey and how, like, when I'm in balance, I've literally reached all of the goals that I want. And now I have to make bigger goals for myself. And so, like, that's kind of what inspired. I always have known that I was going to document my story. I didn't know that I would turn it into a framework. I didn't know that I would turn it into a tool. And that's really what this is about creating frameworks and tools for folks to see themselves and see that every negative thing that you're going through is for a reason, for real. I know people are like, that's hard to, like, apply when you're going through the shit. But if you literally sit with it, even if you sit with stuff that you thought you wouldn't make through in the past, you can see where it brought you. And so I just want people to be able to sit in that and figure out why that's happening for them so that they can thrive in this world. Because low-key, the world sucks, like, especially for Black people. Like, they've taken everything from us. So how do you survive, and not only survive, but thrive in this reality?
That was, I almost cried. I almost cried. That was so amazing. I want to ask though, so you said your first I forgot what you call it, your first step though, was prayer, and you said you were performing like rituals. Could you tell me like how that was like looking for you? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I tell people this all the time. If I don't spend 3 hours with myself a day, it's literally, I need, like, that's not much. 8 hours of my day I'm sleeping, right? 8 hours of my day, at least, I'm working for other people. I need, and then some of my time I'm doing for my wife or my home or cleaning or, like, all my time, I find that I'm in the most chaos when all my time is given to other people. And so I was just like, I need to ground myself in myself. And what are the things that I need from me every single day? Because when I'm not doing that, I'm miserable. I'm literally miserable. And so when I went to Brazil, I actually went to see a high priestess in Candomblé, if you're familiar with African traditional religion, similar to hoodoo and Santeria and voodoo. And we performed a cleanse. And after I did that cleanse and got my shells read and learned more about myself and my spiritual destiny, I was able to, like, I had to get disciplined. She was like, there was no sex, no alcohol, no wheat, no sugar, no meat. Like for 2 weeks after that, like you did it. Yes, you could, no porn, no, and you had to pray, intensively pray every day. And so what I learned from that is that, like, actually I feel better when I don't eat the bullshit, when I don't put the bullshit in my body, when I'm praying to God. And so I started incorporating those things into my daily life, into my daily practice. So when I first started on this journey last year, I would wake up between the hours of 4 and 6 a.m., which are the magical hours. I would take a ritualistic bath. In the bath, I would do frankincense, Epsom salt, and some eucalyptus, and some, why am I forgetting the name of it? It's in a blue bottle. I could go get it right now. It's on my shelf. I'm forgetting what it's called. But I put that in the bath. So I would have my ritualistic bath. I would take my bath. In the bath, I would always pray for guidance, clarity, and strength. And I would pray to, like, keep my mind and body and soul pure. Because I cannot be a vessel to be used by God if I'm tainted by the worldliness, right? And so that was, like, the first part of my ritual. And then I would do yoga, and do the stretches to open my sacral, to make sure that my chakras are balanced, and to really, really spend time with myself. And then I have an altar. So I would go to my altar and I would pray at my altar. And I would pray for 50 intensively. I would pray for all of my people. I would honor my ancestors and thank them in gratitude. I would ask for guidance and wisdom. And then whatever issues or problems that were on my mind, I would ask for support in solving them. And then I would do 2 miles of walking. And that's how I would start my day every day. And that I did that for a year. I fell off, like it's hard to be consistent, but when you do something for 21 days, you really do develop the habit. And now that I don't do that all the time, those full 3 hours, I can feel the difference in my energy. And so those were some of the rituals that started me on being more disciplined in my spiritual journey. Now the thing that is most crucial to me, I still need to get my movement practice in. And I might not spend the full 3 hours in the morning. I might break it up throughout the day now. But I still get my stretching in, my movement in, my prayer in, my altar time in, and I still take a bath. I take my baths at night now. And those things help me to stay grounded and clear. And what I like to say is the channels of communication, because all of your intuition, all of the things that are coming through your third eye, all of those messages, you get more of those when you're more grounded and clear. And so if you're listening to your intuition, God tells you, it's talking to you all the time. And so like the more that you're opening that channel of communication by being grounded in your spirituality and what you're destined to do, the more you can experience joy and happiness in your life.
Gosh. Okay, that is great information to know. So how did you and your wife meet?
Yeah, online.
Really?
So she's from Battle Creek. And my first job outside of college, I was a college advisor. And at that time, it's crazy because I talk about how much I love girly stuff. But at that time in my life, I had cut off that's when I came out the closet, essentially. So I cut off all my hair and I was like a stud. I looked like a stud.
Oh,
And I had red hair, like fire engine red hair. And so we were in Battle Creek. And at the time, because this was over a decade ago, and if you from Detroit or you from Michigan, we have not always been queer friendly. And we're still not really, we're still a little conservative. And so I looked like a butch lesbian. I was a very out loud butch lesbian in Battle Creek, Michigan. So she had seen me around and she was like, oh, I want to be friends with her. She was like, oh, she seemed comfortable in her skin. And so she had seen me around, but then she found me on this like website. It was called Downlink. It was kind of like MySpace, but for gay people. And she sent me a message and was like, I know you're probably too cool for me, but I want to hang out with you or something. So we started talking, and that was like in July, and we started talking online. But I was, I'm poly. And so before she met me, I was poly. I was dating 2 women, plus I was, being Jess, whatever. And so
just
it was
human.
I was just human. I was just living my life.
Right.
And so I didn't meet her in person until November because she thought I was going to go to this event that I didn't show up to. And she was like, you haven't I want to meet you in person. So we went to dinner and we were supposed to just be friends, but that dinner didn't feel like friend. And then after dinner, we hung out literally every single day after that. Like we'd never, like, it was just like, oh, she's my best friend. She's my biggest support system. She's like who I can be honest about everything with. And she sees me and like, she's my rock. Like that's my life partner. That's also the thing that I knew when people think about marriage. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, this is my only one. This is my only one. That's what marriage is, right? And yes, monogamous people have that. Cara is actually monogamous. She doesn't date other people. I'm the only one who's poly, but she knew I was poly before she married me. And I told her that could not be off the table. Just when we started dating, I was in school and I didn't have time or capacity to even try and date other people or have interest in other people. So I was monogamous with her for 10 years. But for me, marriage is about commitment. It's commitment to loving someone through all of their developments, right? So when I met Cara, she didn't have a college education. She didn't have a career. She lived with her mom. Like these were things, and I have loved her through every phase of her journey and supported her to get what she needed. I helped her go to college. I helped her graduate from college. I helped her get her first job outside of college. And now she's managing a full operations at a grow. She helped me get through my MBA program. She helped me buy this house. Like we are committed to this life thing together. And then the other thing that I've only recently recognized, our marriage, the way that I proposed to her is an adventure book. And I proposed to her outside of Moulin Rouge. And the reason why I picked Moulin Rouge is because the first time I met her mother, we watched Moulin Rouge. And so it was her family that inspired me to love her. And she in my life is my family, and my family is coming from her, right? So when I think about our future children, I selected my wife because I knew I wanted a co-parent. I knew I wanted to build a family with her. I knew I wanted to extend her family through me. And like when I think about marriage, I want folks to remember, like, what is your purpose for having that partnership? It's not just about having someone that looks good or can pay your bills and like those are nice add-ons. Like I was definitely obsessed with the way my wife looked. I think she looked fine as hell. Like, yes. But that's not what it's right. That's not what it's about. It's about like, how are we committed to our growth, evolution, and this life journey together? And how are we building it so that it's going to be healthy and beautiful for the future in our family? And those are the things that I challenge people to think about before you hop into any relationship. What's your purpose for that relationship? What meaning do you want to derive from it? And how are you going to stay committed in it? Because my commitment to her doesn't look like I'm only exclusively dating her because I'm poly. But my commitment to her means that I hold you down no matter what. And I'm going to give you kids that are healthy no matter what. And I'm going to make sure that we're growing and evolving no matter what. That's what my commitment looks like to you. And so really having really hard conversations about what people need in those relationships is really key, in my opinion.
So, just out of curiosity, because you're poly, do you see yourself possibly like falling in love again and still continue to stay married to Cara or Kara? I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce her name.
No, Cara, like a car.
Oh, okay, got you.
I fell in love. When we opened our marriage, the first nigga I dated, I fell in love with because I'm a Cancer. I am a Cancer, and I have the
Okay.
capacity to love multiple people, and I think that is one of the things that people have a hard time grappling with. But like, just because you love your mom doesn't mean you love your dad any less. Like just because you love your sister doesn't mean you love your auntie any less. Like we have the capacity to love multiple people. And so it's really just about what are the needs that need to be met in order to sustain the relationship, right? And so we went through, it was hard when we first opened up. It was very hard because one, we both thought, we were like, okay, you could open up and have a fuck buddy on the side. You like men, that's fine. Do you, right? But that's not who I am. I'm not just fucking people. I am an emotionally obsessive person. I'm a Cancer. And so I ended up falling in love and wanting to, and then when you're the other thing is when you've been in a relationship for 12 years, this is a sustained relationship. But when you start a new romance, there's something called, literally it's research that's called new relationship energy. And your brain just be in that it feels like you're drunk on love, and that's the person you want to be around all the time. So we experienced that where she like got a little jealous because I'm like obsessing over this new relationship. And like we had to navigate, well, why are you feeling jealous? What needs are not being met for you that you're experiencing jealousy? Because the thing is, that was what it was about. It was about like, oh, well, you spending all your time over here and I don't got none of your time. Okay, that's fair. Let's make sure it's on the calendar that I'm spending time with you. That's real, or you are not being fully honest about, which was with my shit. Like I wasn't fully honest with her about this relationship over here. And so like I had to learn to communicate so that we could have healthy conversations. In fact, we had to bring a therapist in so that we could all talk together, right? And they could help us rationalize what was really going on. And my friend Peach, who's also poly, that's the other thing. Cara says that I've indoctrinated her because we live in a very monogamy driven culture. So that's the right way that people see love. In fact, when I talk about being poly and still deeply in love with my wife, people don't believe me. They think I'm, whatever. But it's true. I can love multiple people, and there are lots of people who are doing it all the time. And in fact, most of our ancestors were poly, and that's how people build empires and wealth is by having people come together. But the
Yes.
the narrative tells that monogamy is the only way to love, right? And so I have friends who are poly, and I've literally had to have dinners with them. See, Cara had to learn that, like, look, this is happening. People are having successful relationships in marriage and being open to other relationships in marriage. I call it abundant love. And if you focus on, like, okay, she's just getting a different need met there, right? Like, not every relationship is going to meet your every need. I need a little more. My wife is the most mentally and emotionally stable person in my life. She ain't got no chaos. It's gonna be. She's great, but she also didn't know how to express her emotion. I'm a passionate Cancer. I need you to be crazy about me. Like, those are some things that, or I like to do these. She likes to do adventurous things that are not always my interest. I'd rather you go and do that with somebody who's going to enjoy it with you and not try and make me do it. When I like to get my nails done and pedicures, like, let me get
Right.
another person to go do that with me. Like, these are not things that are interesting to you. So stop trying to force you into everything that's not you. And I think polyamory allows for us to get all of our needs met without putting the pressure on one person to meet them. I do think that there are, risks associated with having multiple intimate partners, but honestly, the research shows that people who are poly are actually more open, transparent, and get tested more. So we're less likely to be spreading STIs. And it's true. Every time I get a new relationship, guess what I'm making them do with me? We're going to get tested, right? Because I'm not bringing shit home to my wife. Or,
Right.
okay, and then when that relationship ends, I go and get tested. So in case something happened, I know exactly who it came from. I'm very safe in my sexual practices. I don't do any, like, these are things that I'm conscientious of. And in a lot of my monogamy relationships, we just pretend like, and then people cheat. Like, let's be real, people is cheating. And then you get
Yes.
my ex-boyfriend cheated with his baby's mama. And so, like, you wasn't honest with me. I don't know what the fuck you brought back to me. So,
Hmm.
like, at
It's
least
always the
we
baby
could.
mamas.
It's the baby's mamas. It's the baby's mamas. It's okay, because this is how poly I am. I was like, well, sis can come on. We got to take care of this kid anyway. She might as well be cooking my dinner.
I
Like,
know
I
that's
don't.
right.
That's fine. She ain't me. That's the other thing. The reason why people be jealous is because you insecure. I know at the end of the day, what I offer, nobody else offers to my partners. I know. And so, like, you can have as many partners as you want, but what each of us bring to each other is so unique. You don't need to end your relationship with me because, how do I say Antoine?
Yep, you got it.
Maybe they have an interest in Antoine. What Antoine offers is going to be completely different with what Jess offers. That's fine. They both of us. I know that Antoine not going to replace me, and Antoine probably going to be my girl too, like my home girl too, because
Yeah.
I like think that she's cool. Like, if you think she's cool, we cool. And I think that we can't be transparent in this reality. It's hard though. I ain't even gonna stunt. It's hard. It's
No,
hard
I
to
can only
navigate.
imagine because dating one person is stressful enough. They come with enough drama. Like, you gotta have like a strong mental capacity for that. I give you your props though. I give you your props.
Yeah, it's definitely. That's why I say that to people. I have the capacity and the interest. Some people have the interest. A lot of people want to fuck a lot of people. That's fine. That's on you. But do you have the capacity to be in a relationship, in a partnership with them? Because
Hmm.
that's not what I'm doing. I'm not just trying to have a whole bunch of sex partners. I'm really trying to get my needs met and to meet my partner's needs. I'm trying to be a partner in that with them.
Yes. Okay, I like that. Well, listen, I really enjoyed this. I honestly, when I say like this is probably have been one of my favorite podcast episodes of today, and I really appreciate you for your time. And is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, y'all can follow me on Instagram at IamJessHuman. And you can check out Copperhouse at CopperHouseDET. Thank you for holding space. Thank you for seeing me. You made me so happy when you came to me after the stage. I was like, oh, she heard my message. So thank you for holding the space, for amplifying my voice, and for everything that you do to make sure that your people are seen.
Thank you. And where can we find your book at?
Yes, you can on my Instagram. You can go in the link in bio. But I always, if you send me a DM, I always, if you want it, I can come give it to you. I got them on me. But you can
Okay.
order them online on my link in bio. So my publisher has them on it's on my link in bio.
Okay, I gotta make sure I get with that because I need to do a little self work myself. But thank you
I
so
feel
much.
you. I got you.
Yes, thank you so much. Y'all be sure to check out her Instagram and stuff, and I'm gonna put all the information underneath this video. And thank you again, girl.
Thank you, Anthony. Have a good day.
You too. See you.
See you soon. Bye.